Happy Monday. Welcome back to Sip with Joy. Apologies for being late. This technology is trying me again, but I am here. I am back for another day. And for those of you just joining, this is Sip with Joy, a podcast about a girl, her why, and her feelings. And I am that girl. I am your host, Joy M. Hutton, a serial entrepreneur and a lover of food and wine. I was forgetting what I'm saying because I'm trying to let everybody know over on Instagram that I'm here. But yeah, technology was trying to test me, y'all. I'm like, maybe it's time for me to take a break from Sip with Joy because I'm not with all these technology issues. I want things to go seamlessly, and so because I want to give you guys my best, and this podcast has really been testing me this season on the technology piece, and it's like I fix one thing. And then there's another, but that's okay. I am here with you guys, and we're going to have a show today. So I appreciate you guys tuning in for yet another Monday. And I'm still trying to get that episode right from last week. So give me a chance to decompress from being on vacation because I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with it. But it was a really good episode last week. And so today I'm drinking a Primitivo. It is also known as Zinfandel, if you all love red Zinfandel. And, I got to take my sip. So, yeah, here back for another day. We're over halfway through this season, so I'm glad because I need a break. I need to figure out what's going on with the technology and everything and figure out some other things, about this podcast because, y'all, I'm like, do I really want to continue doing this if this technology is acting a fool? Do I need to go back into a studio, which I don't want to because I like sitting on my couch talking to y'all. I don't want to go back in the studio. Hey, Elsie. Hey, walking into her. Welcome back. Love seeing you guys here. Thank you so much for supporting me and the technology shenanigans week after week. So today's episode is titled No Role Models. And my friend Robin and I were having a conversation with a family friend this past week, and she was talking about people and their influence, but she was particularly going in on Beyonce. And I was like, ooh, y'all, if you know Robin is the part of the Beehive, and so you don't want to talk about Beyonce, but I am not a part of the Beehive, but I do like Beyonce. And so she was going in on Beyonce, and she was you know she felt very strongly that Beyonce is not a good role model and that she should be doing more good with her influence. And then we got to talking about just celebrities in general and what level of influence they should have and what have you. And so we're going to talk about that today because it's like, should celebrities be seen as role models? Should they be held accountable as being role models? Should they be held accountable for their actions in general? I have my opinions on this, and as always, I love to hear from you guys as well. And yeah, so I want to discuss all of that and social responsibility. Should they have social responsibility? Because some people ain't socially responsible. So why do we put that on them? So more into kind of the conversation that we were having about with a family friend about Beyonce, and she's older than us, and so she felt like Beyonce wasn't a role model. She felt that she's too sexual and kids can't go to her concerts, and she felt like she's not relatable. And she also said that she feels like there's a disconnect between her artistry and her public life. And again, I'm not a part of the Beehive, but I didn't agree with everything that she was saying about Beyonce because Beyonce has done a lot of work in Houston, with housing for the homeless. She's done business grants and, probably tons of other things that we don't know about, like, paying for people's groceries and shopping at Walmart and stuff like that. So I feel like Beyonce is doing good, but I think that she is often misunderstood because she's an introvert. And many people may not think that about her because of her stage presence, but she's even admitted that she's a different person on stage. You know, Sasha Fierce is her whole alter ego. And so I think that people see that, you know, she's this persona on stage and then may be expecting other things from her in public. But, you know, I feel like, you know, Beyonce has been through a lot as well, and a lot of celebrities are living out their traumas or anything that happens to them publicly. I mean, she lived out a whole cheating scandal publicly. Her sister was beating on her husband in the elevator, you know, and then other things, you know, motherhood, her body changing, all these life changes. And so I think that, you know, we hold people to these standards, and the question is maybe why do we hold people to certain standards? And you know, I in terms of the disconnect with her artistry, you know, I was explaining to her, like, I felt like Beyonce was kind of more so coming into her own. You know, she doesn't have her father as her manager anymore. She is more expressive in her music, like doing what she wants. You know, now she's doing country. And I was like, I think she coming out with a rock album next. Y'all just be ready. but she's just more independent, and she's making decisions about what she wants to do. And I felt like Lemonade, you know, was a coming out after that whole cheating scandal. And so, you know, it's like, let the woman do what she wants. But again, there are people who have these expectations of you. And so I know for my own experience, you know, people expect me to do certain types of content, or, you know, expecting me to do certain things in the community or certain types of videos. And I'm like, I don't want to. You know, I'm going to post the things that I want to. And if you don't like it, get somebody else to do it. There are plenty of people who you can, you know, follow for the type of content that you want. And, you know, I think it's unfair to hold people to these standards when, you know, they are humans as well. LC said, I have no role models. I know that most things people show is smoke and mirrors. Absolutely. You know, and even when it's not, I just think that holding people to a certain standard and having expectations of people you don't even know, you know. And so I think it's interesting. And we also have to understand, like, some of these people, they were child stars. Like, Beyonce grew up, she's been in this life for a long time. And I still feel like if you look at her, especially when she's with her mother, she has this childlike innocence about her. And she's, you know, she's very quiet and, again, introverted. And there's a difference between being introverted and shy. I don't really think she's shy. I just think she's an introvert, and she's just a very private person. And so, you know, and when I think about, like, just even with me, people think I'm an extrovert. And I'm like, no, but I have a personality. Being an introvert does not mean that you don't have a personality. It is just an energy thing in terms of how you're drained being around a bunch of people. You know, it's exhausting. And so we're often misunderstood. But I often think about, even after I was going on the show, like, okay, what type of content is appropriate, and, you know, what do I say? But then I was like, no, I don't care. This is my page. You know, I'm going to continue to post the things that I want to. Now, public behavior is different because I'm involved in certain things and work with certain brands, and I'm, you know, involved with the government. And, you know, I like to do hood rat stuff with my friends, but I also know that I can't be out here acting a fool. But that's my moral code. It's not really because I have these expectations that people put on me. I have my own standards. You know, I have my own standards about how I want to behave in public, and I'm not going to embarrass my family name either. You know, Denise is the way, and I'm not going to be out here saying I'm embarrassing the family name. But I think it should be a choice if you want to be involved with a social cause, and speak out about particular issues, like political events. That's not my thing. I'm not going to get involved in political conversations. I'm not the Amanda Seals, of the universe, and I applaud her for the work that she's doing, and putting people on to different issues, but that's just not my space, not my ministry. And so, she also mentioned that, or I also mentioned that it's up to parents to instill in their children, values. My parents didn't let me listen to certain music when I was growing up, and I snuck. If I would go to my auntie house, or y'all, had BET uncut back in the day, but I did things like that. But and it's easy to be influenced by celebrities, but when you have a value system, or you have a moral code that you follow, then you're not going to be as easily influenced. And like Elsie said, she doesn't have role models, because she's looking at seeing people for who they are on the screen or on social media. Um, but the reality is that people are easily influenced, and if a celebrity says buy something, then a product, then people will go buy it. If they say they're supporting a certain candidate, then people will back them. And there are people who are easily impressionable, and I'm not one of them, because I have my own opinions, and I'm I'm going to, excuse me, got the Oscar the Grouch over here, but I'm going to, have my own opinion about things using my mind. And Elsie said exactly. I think the parents should be your role models. Absolutely. Elsie says somebody clone Tyrone. Listen, okay. It really is somebody clone Tyrone out here. Like, people act like they don't have a mind for themselves. They cannot think for themselves. And I'm like, no, mama and daddy didn't raise no fool over here. And so I'm going to have my own opinion about things. And I think on the other side of it, you know, we're we as a society are putting pressure on these people to be a role model. They didn't choose this life. And some may argue that they did, and that was one of the things that the family friend brought up, is that, well, these celebrities do choose this life. Some of them didn't, though. Some of them became, somebody discovered them, and they became famous. Think about like these LSU girls, these athletes from the college basketball teams, like Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. They didn't ask for this. They did not ask to have this level of attention, and now they have it. And they were not ready for it. And they're young girls. These are young girls just coming straight out of college. And so everybody is not ready for that. Like, people don't have conversations about you entering into this space. And so that was one of the conversations that we had too. Like, okay, what does this look like for you? Making sure you shape your own identity instead of somebody calling it out for you. I have my own identity, so I was like, I'm not going to let the public shape what they want me to do, and so I had to be very clear about the things that Joy wants, because and I let people influence me in a way that is not necessarily you're telling me what to do, but I like to get feedback from people, like with me just asking you guys what kind of topics you want to hear about or whatever. But I'm also going to talk about things in my own way, because I'm Joy and I got my own opinion. um, and so, yes, walking into her said, just be yourself, authenticity, absolutely. And she also said imposter syndrome, people got identity issues, which is why a lot of people are like that. Exactly. And that is the struggle of social media. And I know I talked about this on another episode about just, people and privacy, but yeah, people are not authentic. And then you think these people are living these glitzy and glamorous lives, and behind it they are falling apart. So like LC says, smoke and mirrors. You have to be careful what you allow in. And so that is just, like I said, a big part of it. And so I'm just we really had a deep conversation about this, because I think it's also a generational thing, because we asked some of the other family that we were around about what they thought about Beyonce, and a lot of them didn't like her. And I was like, what? And so she was explaining to me, she thinks like there's like a cutoff at like 55, and then anybody over 60 may not have an appreciation for Beyonce. But that's not everybody. She was making that statement, but I thought it was interesting, because I'm like, you may have a point there, because I definitely, yeah, I definitely didn't think about that before. So, yeah, it's all about authenticity, and I think that's what people are craving in content now, like authenticity and vulnerability to a certain extent. Because I feel like you still shouldn't be putting all your business out there on social media. Like, you're leaving, like, people are leaving nothing to the imagination. Justin Bieber posted a photo of him crying. Like, what are you crying about? And why are you posting a picture of you crying on social media? And I had a conversation today. It was on a professional end where, you know, me and a colleague were talking about when you are seen as cold, or not a team player, or you just seem aloof, because you're not vulnerable enough. And I feel like that's more so of an expectation of women than it is for men, because I said, okay, if I go and pitch my business to a man, why do I have to have a sob story? I don't have a story of me being a crackhead, or me being, like, I raised in the hood. Like, I don't have that type of story. And sure, I could talk about my traumas of divorce and losing my sister, but I don't feel like I should have to do that for someone to feel sorry for me, like they want to help me with my business. They want to fund my business or whatever. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people look for, especially when you're dealing with the great white hope, because they need to feel like they're saving you. And I've had a lot of people tell me, well, you don't look like you need the help. How you know? I'm trying to scale a business here. What does that mean? What do you mean I don't look like I need help? Because I don't look like what I've been through? And it's really interesting, because we were having this conversation, and so she was like, well, maybe it's not about pity, but it's about people feeling a connectedness. But again, I still argue that that is something that they look for with women versus men when you're dealing with a business setting. And so it's like, because I mean, obviously this podcast is all about my feelings, the being vulnerable, but I feel like there's a time and place for everything. And when I'm talking about business, I'm talking about business. I'm not selling you some sob story, but that is just interesting again. And it's kind of like people having their expectations, and again holding you to certain standards, and they're looking at you instead of really understanding who you are. You're not asking me questions about myself, but you're expecting me to just open it all up when you've asked me nothing about myself. And why should it have to be about that when this is all about the numbers? This is all about my business. But don't get me down that rabbit hole, because that's a whole other conversation that really just ticks me off, because I just feel like women are held to a different standard of men when it comes to emotions. And I was also telling her about how you have the founder of Uber. He was a complete asshole. He would go into these rooms with men and say, I need you to write me a check. This is my business. I'm passionate. I know it's going to work. I know it's this. If I did that, I can't be an asshole, So, but again, it goes back to that public persona. And I just feel like, again, we are held to different standards, and it's really not fair. And so LC said, because you're not crying or begging for help. It's sad, but my mom told me once not to go to job interviews overly dressed, because people may view you as not needing to work. Sad, but sometimes it's true. Yes. Hey, mommy. And so, yeah, it's really interesting, because people have their perceptions of you, and you like, shoot, how I don't need this funding for my business, or need this job, like you said. And then if you come in under prepared, or if you're too vulnerable, then that goes against you too. So it's really, and I was talking to her about that too, it's really a fine line between being vulnerable and also trying to show your human side, trying to show a connectedness to people. And I think that it's really tough, and I struggle with that in business all the time. But with my own team, I'm personable with them. I treat them as humans. It's like I'm capable of treating people as human. But when it comes to me talking business, that's a different space. I'm turning on a different hat for that. But apparently I have to show this other side of me. And I have struggled with that because I see people pitching, and it's always like it seems like people want a rags to riches story, and I don't have that. Or and so she also talked to me. She's like, well, it's okay to talk about your sister, it's okay to talk about your divorce, you don't have to use that. But I struggle with inserting that into a business setting, so yeah, it's just really interesting. But yeah, like I said, there are these expectations that people have of you, and publicly, even with my page. And I think I've said this before. I have to use other mediums to talk about business now because people are not necessarily looking for that particular content on my personal page anymore, because a lot of people have come from, they want to know what's going on, and they want to know what's going on in my relationship world, so that's also that's also interesting as well, because it's like, dang, my whole thing was built on business and what I was doing in the business space. And then all of a sudden it becomes, well, who you dating? You still with this person, you still with that person, and I don't want to talk about that. And just like this podcast is about talking about things that I go through in life, and those who want to hear it, want to hear it. And those who don't, well, they don't have to listen to it. Um, Tanya said, I'm not sure people are not authentic. I think because they don't have real, role models, they look for it elsewhere, like social media. They see what they want to emulate versus traits. My mama said, people are just nosy. Yeah, they are nosy. And it's like, when did it happen? And I was talking to that to the family friend about that too. Like, social media, is amplifying everything now. Like, everything is on 1,000. Like, Beyonce has this level of influence because social media has also played a role in that, where, because I was like, okay, well, y'all think Beyonce is too sexual. What about Janet? But they like Janet. They like Rihanna. I was like, well, what's the difference? And I was like, because Beyonce does not seem as likable, and that goes back to perceptions. And no one was arguing that she was not the best singer. Like, she's not the best singer, but she's a good performer. She's a good businesswoman. Like, she's very strategic. She moves very strategically, and I respect that about her. But it was just a lot of Beyonce hate going on. And like I said, I'm not a beehiver, but I respect the woman's craft. I respect her artistry. But it's interesting, the generational conversations that happen around certain artists and what they should be doing, or just people in general. Like, I don't have any expectations of anybody unless you're a public official. You should be protected and serving, but outside of that, like, I'm not holding these celebrities to a certain standard, because one, I don't know them, and two, these people ain't paying my bills. They're going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. Okay. And then, speaking of what people are gonna do, so y'all know I have the what the sip. So Uncle Luke, I just really need people to throw their phones away. He was on social media talking about women and their feminine hygiene, and I'm just like, who are you to speak on women's hygiene when you look like you need to brush your teeth? You look like you got halitosis all up in here. Like, who are you to speak on women's feminine hygiene? Like, that, it's just, whew. Social media, I'm telling you, it's just out of control. Some days I'm just like, you know what? I want to just walk away from the whole thing. but it keeps me connected to the world to see what's going on out here because I got to know what these crazy people are all up to. Elsie, I love Uncle Luke back in the day too, but he is out here acting a fool, talking about what women should be doing. Women should douche, and actually, douching is not good for you. But like, you should not be out here doing like talking about speaking on women's bodies. Calm down, Uncle Luke. Go back to the juking. Um, Elsie, he is out of touch telling women what they need to do. He is, and he looked like his breath stink. Like, come on now. My mom said when they get in her business, they flake on you. It's nobody's business. Point blank. Period. Absolutely. So listen, I think at the end of the day, we have to evaluate the role of celebrities in our lives and the influence that we allow them to have. They absolutely have no influence on mine, but I might, the only time influence comes in is outfits. Now, I love the fashion, like I'll look at people's fashion and all of that, but you're not going to sway my decision one way or the other. If you say you voting for a particular person, I don't care because I have to form my own opinion about what I'm going to do. And we should all form our own opinions. And at the end of the day, I think it's, unfair to hold these people to unrealistic standards when it starts at home. And so, like, if you want to choose a social cause, that's your business. And if you don't want to, that's your business too. And so, I think it starts with values, with parenting, and having conversations because even though I snuck away and listened to, music that my parents told me not to, I think I turned out all right. So I think it again goes back to values. So yeah, but that's all I got today, y'all. Y'all know these episodes are short when it's by myself, but I just wanted to come on and talk about that because that was a really interesting conversation that we had. Because I mean, our family friend, she was hardcore about like people with influencing basically needing to do better. And I was like, well, I don't think so, and I think we have certain standards of people that we really shouldn't have. These people you are living their lives. You got the Sukihanas. I would never, you know, but that's her. Sukihanas and the Krishan Rocks. Like your kids you have to educate your kids about what what you want them to see, how you want to raise them. And so my future children would not be wearing booty cutout dresses. It's not happening. So but yeah, thank you guys. We made it through this episode. We survived. So I will see you guys back here next week. We're going to have a specialist on to talk about fertility. I think it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. The struggles of fertility are not just for women over 40. It's happening with women younger and younger. And then hormonal imbalances too. Like, we may not know what's happening with our body, and it may be due to hormonal imbalances. And so I think it's important because stress leads to a lot of that, gets our body all out of whack. So that is the conversation next week. So I'll see you guys back here next week. Thank you for riding with me as always. I love y'all so much.